Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Reloading Chat. So I'm going to resize a little bit of brass here, and let's talk about what happened in Sweden. Because Donald Trump had made statements, and the media tried to slam him for it and claim, oh, there's nothing bad going on in Sweden and everything else. And, I was kind of shocked by that because I personally have friends in Sweden. Had quite a few online conversations with people I know from Sweden, some of whom I have met in person at different events and everything when I did live abroad over in Europe and in the UK. And, they've told me a lot about what goes on there. The stuff the news isn't reporting on a lot that doesn't get out of the country, and it's pretty bad. It's really bad. The rape rate and everything there has been a major problem. All of the sexual assaults and everything that happened there. If you guys look at the different charts that are out there, it's showing an enormous rise in the rape rate. It has grown enormously, and in fact, even before the last couple of years, Sweden had the highest rape rate in Europe. Had a much higher rape rate than even the United States with all of our issues that we know illegal immigration and everything has contributed to ours here, but theirs was even higher. Keep in mind, this was previously 15 years ago. This is one of the lowest crime rate countries in the entire world. So they've had major problems there, and there have been situations, and I know firsthand that I've been told by people from Sweden that there are neighborhoods that are Muslim only, and if you're not Muslim, you cannot go into those neighborhoods. You could be beaten to death. At the very least, you're going to be beat up and attacked and everything if you go through those areas. So there is an immigration problem there. With all the refugees and everyone who've come in to their country, and it has raised crime rates. It has caused a lot of problems. So it's interesting that the media doesn't want to report on this because it doesn't fit their bias. And when Donald Trump talked about it, he was attacked by the media. And then what happens last night? Just within days of his statements and the media attacking him for it, we have these massive riots happen in Sweden. This big riot happened last night. Or yesterday, I suppose. I guess I'm trying to figure it out. It was yesterday. In which police officers had to engage a large number of rioters, and it was over them having to serve an arrest warrant in one of these Muslim immigrant or migrant areas. They had an arrest warrant they had to go serve, and that resulted in backlash. Because what people need to understand, many people coming in from these Islamic countries do not believe that they are required to follow the laws of the countries they come to. All right, they do not believe that because it's against their belief system, that they're not supposed to follow those laws. Those laws are not supposed to be enforced on them because they're only subject to Sharia law, not the law of the land. And so, that can cause outrage in these communities. And that's what people need to understand with this. So what you're dealing with a different culture, and all these cultural relativists don't understand that is what happens with a lot of these communities. They truly believe, and many of them will say it publicly. It's not hard to find many Muslim leaders in a lot of Western countries who say that they're not supposed to be held subject to the law of the land, that they're, because of their religious beliefs, that they're immune to it. They're only supposed to be subject to the laws of their religion, and that's it. And people need to understand that is the belief that you are oftentimes dealing with this. That's what you're dealing with. And so, them attempting to serve this arrest warrant, caused riots. And those riots resulted in police being attacked, police having to fire warning shots at the crowd, buildings being damaged, businesses being damaged, and at least 10 cars have been burned as a result of that. So this is right here making it in the news, and it was only right-wing stuff like Breitbart reporting it yesterday. But now, if you look, everyone's covering it. The BBC's covering it, CNN's covering it, New York Post is covering it. I think the Washington Post, I saw that, or it might have been New York Times. I've just flipped through the list this morning to see who else is covering it. And now, even this leftist news is covering it. So it looks like Trump has been vindicated here, and that's the thing. Everyone wants to act like he just pulls this stuff out of nowhere. They want to act like these problems aren't real, but they actually are. These are real problems, and it should just be common sense that these things would occur. People just don't grasp that. They have these weird ideas that everyone around the world has the same beliefs and same culture, and that when you introduce large numbers of people from a dramatically different culture, a culture that is founded largely upon a set of religious ideologies. All right, that's what you need to understand. Countries that have their culture largely framed by a religious ideology that's not even the original culture there, you could have some major conflicts that occur. And is I mean, that's just the reality of it. And people don't seem to grasp that when you bring people in who are not integrated into your society in large numbers, who have a totally different, incompatible set of cultural, religious, and political beliefs. You can create conflicts, you can create problems. And the left just wants to ignore this, and the media wants to ignore this because it doesn't fit into their model of diversity. But Europe is actually having a lot of problems from this. And again, the media is always reluctant to report it. They were reluctant to report the massive rape problem they had back in New Year's of last year in Germany with all the migrant situation that had happened in one of the towns. They don't want to report these things. And France has gotten, as far as a lot of it goes, the worst of it. As far as the actual terrorist attacks. And, since when someone mentions, well, there's terrorist attacks in Europe, and they say, well, there haven't been really many in Sweden or whatever, what are you talking about? Yeah, but look at France. How many hundreds of people have died in France in the last 2 years by confirmed Islamic terrorist attacks? And, some of the media doesn't want to call them an Islamic terrorist attack. They're like, well, it was committed by a person who just happens to be Muslim and an immigrant. But, when they kill more than 10 people, and they happen to be Muslim and an immigrant, and you get multiples of those, yeah, I'm sorry, that's going to fall back in the area of a terrorist attack, right? That is a terrorist attack. And some of them were blatantly obvious terrorist attacks, and they're organizing groups and they use bombs and AKs and everything. France has gone through all that, but France has also had to deal with the Nice truck attack, which killed like 80 people. These actually are real. This is happening, and the news covers all that. But again, the news always, his motives aren't clear. And it's like it just gets ridiculous when France has been targeted for terrorist attacks, and then you see a few of the lone wolf ones, and they don't want to throw those in, but they are. I mean, I'm sorry. When France has been targeted by ISIS, they publicly stated we're going to have tons of terror attacks there, and then some of them are lone wolf ones where it happens to be an Islamic immigrant who kills 80 people. In the same time period that ISIS and all these groups have stated they're going to target France for terrorist attacks and have been, and there are others, this falls in the same area. It's not coincidence. So you've seen those there, and the problem you've had in other countries, more like Sweden and Germany, is more the case of just the massive crime influx, the massive number of violent crimes and sexual-related crimes. And that's been one of the biggest problems that they've had. In Sweden, it has been a big problem. Their rape rate has climbed to an astronomical level. It is one of the highest rape rates that's ever been seen in a first world country currently. And it's risen every year, and I don't even think we have the statistics yet for last year, but we know that it was rising every single year. And it was at the point, even a few years ago, it had already passed. It had already passed out of the United States, pretty much the rest of Europe, everything else. So it has gotten really, really high. And so, yeah, everyone has known that who's researched that. We've seen that. And so a lot of what he's talking about was the crime over in Sweden. And then sure enough, the media slams Donald Trump for it. And what happens? We have these massive violent riots the exact same week. Right there in Sweden that now the news is having to cover because it's everywhere. So I must say he was pretty well vindicated on that. And there's going to be a lot more to come. Sweden's about to have a lot more problems. And all of Europe is, unless they do something about it. Alright guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.